Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Kesh. I've got Mark Fattori, and we are here presenting to you Friday Night Live. Now, Mark, before we get into today's episode, I've really been thinking about, should we change the name? Because I think Friday Night Live just makes us the loosest show on real estate, essentially, with 5,000 missing subscribers, I guess.
Well, there was an old show on Triple J. I think they still got it on Fridays.
Is it?
It's called The Friday Weird. Do you remember that?
Yes, we do remember that. Anyway, look, I think I'm up for changing the name. I think we'll have to get Sean as well. It has to be a group, and producer Ryan. We'll put in our best favorite names in a chit. Then we'll pick up one and then we'll vote for it. Let's make it a democratic process, I guess.
And if you guys have any
suggestions, yeah. As long as they're constructive and you don't just call us names for the sake of it. Keyboard warriors. Love you guys. Anyway, today's topic, guys, welcome to another episode of Friday Night Live. That's what we're going to call it for now. And we apologize. We have been missing for a bit, but we've had a few challenges. As you see our episodes roll out, you're going to see that we were recording in all sorts of weird places, trying to get this content out there. We've had some creative challenges. We've had some staff in and out. The editor went missing, but you know what? We're back, and I'm very, very excited that we are back. We've recorded. We're back at Bella again. Favorite spot. Very good pizza and beers. They do a unlimited brunch. This is like a free marketing thing for no reason, but they've been kind enough to let us use their space, which is absolutely incredible. Now, today's episode is about the housing market as a whole. You did record, and I think you're going to be bringing that back very soon, is the state of the market, which was pretty consistent. You did that. I love that, mate. I absolutely love that. And today's theme is essentially going to be state of the market style, right? So there's a lot of conversation happening around the marketplace about, is this the right time to buy? Well, people always talk about that. Porter Davis liquidation, supply issues, a mortgage cliff, RBA interest rates. In fact, recently, yesterday, they were announcing that the RBA will not be allowed to talk about interest rates, and they're going to be putting a special body in place to overlook the interest rate. So I haven't gone and seen at the time of recording this episode of what came off that, but there's a lot of movement that is happening in the marketplace. Now, we've always said, Mark, that there is no mortgage cliff. No one's going to, there's no end of the waterfall, if you will, and no one's going to fall off a cliff. And I wanted to start this episode before we jump into everything is with this report here that we're going to discuss. So as of today, this is April 21st, 2023. The residential real estate really is worth $9.3 trillion for context, right? So I want you to remember this number. Residential real estate is worth $9.3 trillion in Australia. In comparison to the Australian superannuation, which is $3.4 trillion, predominantly exposed to the stock market. Australian listed stocks, that is $2.8 trillion. Yep. And commercial real estate, which is $1.3 trillion. Mark, do you want to total those up? 3.4, 2.8, and 1.3. What does that come up to be?
7.5.
Wow. Okay. So $7.5 trillion is all other asset classes, where $9.3 trillion is residential real estate. So it's clearly one of the favorite asset classes for everyone. Now, the reason we constantly tell people that there is no massive mortgage cliff. Now, I'm not saying this that no one will go through this. That would be a very incorrect statement.
Yep.
But if you look at the total amount of outstanding debt against this $9.3 trillion asset class, there's only $2.2 trillion in debt. And 57% of this country's wealth, 57%, it is not a small number, by people's choice, is held in a residential real estate. So when you look at 2.2 trillion against 9.3 trillion, that is below 50% LVR nationally. Below 50% LVR nationally. there is no reason why people will panic and start selling everything. And you'll see like how these economists, the property gurus predict a 40-50% crash. You're basically saying to me, let's just do round numbers here. If residential real estate is $10 trillion, which it'll get to very soon, you're saying when 40% wipes out, you're saying $6 trillion of wealth will be wiped off. And people need context for that.
Look, I think I've said it time and time again to a lot of clients, to ourselves in general conversation. You know, if you own a property that is worth $1 million and you've got a $750,000 debt or even a $500,000 debt, I come across from the road and say to you, Kesh, I will take this property from you for $600,000. So I'll cover your debt and I'll give you $100,000 of profit.
Correct.
Will you take the sale? And about 9 times out of 10, if not even more, no way, I would never do that. If you know the property's valued at X, why would you sell it for less than that? Again, we understand some people can fall into, you know, a spot of bother financially, things like
Correct.
that. And if you can't hold, you can't hold. It is what it is. But I think those that, you know, have a bit more foresight, which I think is a majority of people, would probably dare say to themselves, look, you know what, we'll stop on the fancy dinners for the next couple of months.
Correct.
We'll enjoy our company together a little bit more rather than, you know, going out and spending. Yes, we had a lot more liquid cash in the last couple of years. And, you know, it's being chewed up a little bit now through inflation and whatnot, and it's something that we need to get used to. I'm going to call it a new norm, where what we experience now, you know, at least living in Sydney, you know, expect it to get worse and worse over time. So you need to be more than ever mindful of the purchases that you do make that are of a larger transaction.
I agree with you, but I really feel that not everyone's doing it hard. And a large part of people who've owned real estate for the last 10 or 15 years, such as your parents, that's more than 20, that's 30 years of ownership. Mate, the value of their asset versus the debt against their asset, and there are a lot of people like that, just everyday mums and dads, worked hard, raised families, have, you know, maybe their home, one investment property, and it's very, very normal to see that in Sydney, especially people who've been here for more than 20 odd years to see that, right? They're fine. They're not panicking. They're really not panicking. In fact, a lot of those people are actually excited because their debts on their homes are so low and they've got more in savings than debt at this point that they're very happy about getting 4% on their savings account or whatever the rate is, right? Now, I've got a theory, conspiracy theory, and I've got some facts to back it, right? You and I talked about this, and I said to you, dude, I want you to think about this real hard. When COVID happened, they said to us, don't leave your houses. This thing will kill you. You need to be vaccinated. Now, I'm not going to give you an anti-vaxxer speech. I am vaccinated, right? I was like, that's it. Okay, this is what people need. Fair enough. Let's do it. And I don't think too much into things like this, right? But when it came to real estate, they said, this is the end of real estate as we know it. This is it. COVID has come. The whole economy is going to collapse. People cannot go into work. Businesses have been disrupted. You cannot meet anyone. You cannot open your office anymore. A lot of people thought, holy shit, I'm going to lose my job. You know, what is going to happen to us? And then we saw various things happen where the government came in with, you know, mortgage pauses and job keepers, job seekers, which created a whole different problem of inflation, okay, after the fact. But then again, Mark, they used interest rates as the new COVID. RBA was the new doctor, the expert who would come up on the news channel every morning and tell you why things are really bad and why things are very scary. The property gurus, and these are very specific. I don't want to name drop anyone, but for those who are interested, I'm more than happy on a one-on-one discussion to literally point out who comes out of the woodwork, because these guys actually jump out and start doing webinars on how to buy distressed properties and how to do this, and they're like vultures. Basically sell you a $5,000 or $6,000 course and teach you how to write letters to strangers. Essentially, I'm not with you, like, honestly, right? And they did the same. So I've got some numbers in front of you, and I'd love your input because you really track the market, commercial, residential, a lot of these things, right? So national home values in the last 3 months fell by only 2.3%. Okay. Dwelling values in Australia was 7.9% lower than the last 12 months. Mind you, a lot of suburbs went up over 40%. So since COVID, those suburbs are up only 30%. Okay, in a way. The 3 months pace decline eased substantially in February, despite large annual decline in home values. I don't know what the larger really is. If you look nationally, and I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit. Just want to pull up this example here for Sydney, because we were sitting in Sydney. Sydney's actually risen by 0.3%. The most expensive, arguably the most expensive real estate market in Australia, Sydney, in the world, in fact, rose by 0.3%. Now, these are just macro numbers. They're places that have grown by far more.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Why is this happening? Why hasn't the big 20, 30, 40% correction happened? Why aren't the interest rate, the mortgage cliff affecting the most expensive real estate market in this country?
Look, I think we can boil it down to one thing, is that, you know, we can throw numbers in the air all day, every day, right? We've seen, I think, since 2020 now, let's say, we've seen a lot of economists from different banks, major banks, come out with forecasts for the new year to come, and everyone's really scrutinised them because, to be fair, I think they've been off every single time, you know, in all honesty. So
that is their specialty. that is
so.
Specialty.
Look, I think, you know, looking
whatever
at
they say, do the opposite.
yeah, but looking at it from that perspective, I mean, look, again, we got to understand in this day and age, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, the next 20 years to come, so on and so forth, you've got to start using logic, right?
You do.
We spoke about it last time as well, right? We in regards to property development, you know, what's one of the big things that are, you know, holding back and, you know, causing these, actually we're talking about it earlier today with another member of the team, and we were talking about, you know, the rental crisis, the housing shortage, et cetera, and the one key component that continues to pop up is the discussion around government/council, right? The delays, the red tape, you know, everything. And look, rightfully so, yes, we need red tape because there are a lot of cowboys in the industry, and, you know, we need to get rid of them over time, right? That's purely what it's here for, right? To get rid of them.
Do it before you issue licenses. Don't scrutinize someone once they're a licensed person to build and take for years to approve something.
Again, that's from a construction side of things.
Correct.
Right? But the council, right, is much further ahead than even worrying about building. The building can be done quickly, right? And if anything, sometimes it's almost like, not that I'm saying we should, you know, turn a blind eye to red tape, but should we not lower the standard a little bit from time to time to realise, okay, what's more important, housing people or, you know, this wall's off or whatever.
Or fast track it or do something to ease the process, yes.
And again, that's another debate in itself, so I won't go into that today. But I think we need to realise, you know, logic needs to prevail now, right? What? And this is something I say to so many investors as well, so many of our clients. What is one of the main contributing factors of investing in real estate in today's market? Affordability.
Correct.
For both the investor and the tenant, let's say, right? There's no point going out and renting out, you know, let's say, I'm talking about a big portion of your portfolio and having everything renting out for $5,000 and above, like we talked about again last week. You know,
100%.
There's not going to be a huge market for that, right? We need to target the mass market. The mass market feels comfortable, I believe, in the $400 to $600 per week range as a tenant, right? That's a comfortable.
The market's disappearing. Like, it honestly is. I'm not even joking. It is really disappearing, and I'm speaking to people about this, and there's sales data proving this, right? Yep. So we've got minus 21.2% in basically sales volume. There's no supply. Basically, no one wants to sell because they can't really go anywhere. There's no way to upsell or down because there's no stock. The prices are going to go up indefinitely because prices just don't go up because someone paid a little bit more, but replacement costs, right? So if a house costed $10 to build 5 years ago, now it costs 15 and 20. And you can see this is not something new. Dude, if your parents built their house in, say, 1989 and they built their house for, say, 50 grand or 60 grand or $75,000 or $100,000, their insurance on their home is not $75,000.
Correct.
right? So even the insurance companies are now going, oh, wait a minute, you paid $75,000 for this house in 1991 to construct it. We're going to insure it for... No, it doesn't work like that.
No.
Because they know the cost of bricks, concrete, so on and so forth, right? What people aren't understanding in this country that we are going to see a massive, massive shortage of is affordable real estate. And this is not new. New York, LA, dude, there is no...
Yes.
I can tell you in the last few years, most quality deals that I come across are 650 and above. It is really, really scarce to find quality real estate. I don't care whether you're buying apartments, whether you're buying houses, townhouses, a block, 650 and under for quality real estate. And when I mean by quality, we talk about this. The value of real estate is only worth the local demographic. So if you live in the eastern suburbs of Sydney or the northern beaches of Sydney or one of the hills suburbs or wherever there's 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 million dollar, that is a direct reflection of the profile of people living in that area, because only if you earn so much can you buy a property of XYZ dollars, right? And what is happening is slowly, the rich are moving into certain pockets. There's a whole bunch of inheritance coming through.
Yep.
And the poor are getting pushed in all sorts of weird directions where most people have accepted that we're going to rent forever. And I'm okay with that. We talk about rent vesting. But I have a very important question for you. What happens to someone in inflationary environment, which we will consistently live in, it's not new, right? Where someone is consistently renting and has no exposure to real estate as a hedge to allow them to preserve their wealth. Forget making money. Can you expand on that for us, please?
So I guess, look, there's many different ways you can look at it, I think, but more importantly, we need to understand, what our boundaries are from day one. All right. So for example, someone that's in a position where they're renting and they want to get ahead, let's say, Yep. We need to, as an example, and a really good example is I am working with a client with a low budget at the moment, right? And it does prove, at least to myself, saying, hey, you know what?
That guy's a legend, by the way, for attempting what he's trying to do. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, to be fair, he's, can he go out and do what we do? To a degree, not really. But more importantly, it's about understanding now that professional help is not a rip-off. I'm not saying jump in a bed with the first person that, promotes their services.
Oh, not at all.
But do some research and make the clear assumption for yourself to say, I need to engage in professionals in all parts of this if I want to get ahead. Okay,
it's a team sport.
And let's say you are 12 months away from having a certain amount of liquidity, let's say, to go towards an investment, whether it's stocks, shares, whatever, I don't care, real estate, you name it. Now, again, from where I see it is, you need to engage in your services accordingly. Find someone you like, someone you trust, someone that you feel that you get along with.
Aligns with your values and what you're trying to do.
A mortgage broker is a mortgage broker, but there are thousands of them out there, number one. But number two, one guy is different to another.
Oh, dude, I couldn't agree with you more.
So, yes, they might all have access to the same banking institutions, I should say, but it's about how they deliver it. How they understand your scenario,
100%.
How they can make it work. One might know policy better than the other, right? And that is super important to understand that. Even for example, an accountant should do the same thing that all accountants should do, which is count beans, right? Or count your dollars and make sure you're in a safe position. But
they're made very differently.
There are so many accountants that are business driven, right? And this is no disrespect to accountants, but they are business driven, where their main aim is to, get as much out of you as possible, keep you looking tight and right so that ATO doesn't come knocking on the door.
Correct.
Right? Now, there are other accountants that really care for their clients and say, well, hang on, there's loopholes here, and here we can take advantage of. Nothing illegal, of course, but in order to do that, we need to make you look like this, and this, right? And within reason, we can do this.
But dude, that's the difference between your $89 tax return versus someone who actually understands what they're doing.
So I guess where I'm going with this, Kesh, is saying that, we can sit here all day, right, and say someone that is renting at home, that is renting at the moment, that wants to get into the market, invest into the market, what should they buy, what should they look at? All of that is irrelevant right now, I believe, if you are in that starting point, of course. It's about understanding that, Can I do this on my own? Of course, I can go out and do the research on my own. But what are the chances of me committing to it long term and sticking to it, knowing that I might not get an investment within the next 4 weeks?
Dude, I can't do, we do this every day.
Every day.
There are 15,000 suburbs. I can't do it without the help of the acquisitions team.
Absolutely. Right.
They're literally all day, every day.
Yes.
So imagine you work 40 hours a week, right? And you're trying to squeeze in another 20 hours of research to find a property for yourself. And then you're basing it off some online reports, some YouTube videos, whatever it is. Versus there's 10 people who are spending 60 hours a week, right? So 600 hours of research per week, right? For doing the same thing. You just can't compete.
Well, and that's one part of it. But I think another part is that you're paying for expertise. Now, what I mean by that is I'm going to look at this from both a buyer's agent perspective and a mortgage broking perspective. You go to a mortgage broker, they are there to lodge your application and get it through the line. Now, bank comes back with a set of questions. They go back with the answers. If they need more information, they'll come back to you and they'll obviously take you through. Now, from a mortgage broking perspective, as an example, right, it's in their best, as they call it, best interest duty, right, to make sure that they get you the best loan, the best circumstances for you,
correct,
so on, right? But more than ever, it's about, on their instance, it's about understanding policy of as many banks as possible, because yes, they might say, I've got a good relationship with major lender number one, right? But there might be a better product with a second tier type of lender that gives you more flexibility in order to, expand your portfolio that little bit extra that you want to do, right? Having someone like that is a good example, right? And paying for that service, whether you pay for it, whether the bank pays for it, that's up to you guys, right, at the end of the day. But what I'm saying is taking that time to explore that. The second part then, using the buyer's agent as an example, is that, yes, for the last 5, 6, 7 years, people have questioned it. Oh, why would I need a buyer's agent? I can do it myself. I can negotiate. But how well can you negotiate? Because we understand that whether it's an investment or a principal place of residence, it is very easy to get caught up in the emotional side of things and overspend.
Oh, you can.
Right?
Or underspend. Sometimes there's a deal where I think it's worth paying that little 10 or 15 grand extra. And
exactly right.
And it's actually worth so much more. I've always told people, I'm anti-renovation for my personal situation, right? And I'm anti-renovation because I've seen much better returns from actually doing knockdown rebuilds, proper subdivisions, or just finding a property where someone's overcapitalized because they got emotional about it. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Now, coming back, you had a very, very fair point where people need to go and find professionals. I agree, whether it's accountants, whether it is financial planners, whether it is, and I also agree with you that not all of them are made equal. Some of them are just there to win the business and they have a very short-term outlook. And some of them are very good and they really, really want to help you. So again, it is not finding the cheapest thing, including property. It is about finding the best value thing when you go out and do this. Coming back to the main part of why people renting and getting into the marketplace need professionals and need to go and do that is hedging their risks, right? So today, if I go, imagine this is a house, if that makes sense. This is a house. And this house, essentially in the market, will go up, down, and sideways. So I want you to picture, imagine this flying through the universe, going up, down, and sideways, but eventually will end up at a higher position, a higher altitude, if you will, over a 10, 15, 20-year period, right? What people don't realize is putting money even in the bank or putting money under the pillow or not investing their money. It needn't be real estate, not really investing your money. Leaving there and you're just renting. What is happening is your income stops growing that fast. You're growing below inflation for most people. ChatGPT world, most guys will be made redundant in the next decade or two. And there'll be new jobs created that'll be taken over by different people. Redundancy for our generation is going to be the biggest thing, bigger than what our parents saw it. Because there's literally, I can see it today that we could fire half of our team. If we really sat there and automated stuff, right? People need to hedge their lives. You need to take a certain amount of your money and put it into something that'll be worth more in the future. And that's why today, having a professional, not getting it wrong, is so, so important. And also realizing that if you're someone, if you're hearing this, and if you're someone who earns less than $200,000 a year in household income, you should have started as of yesterday.
Yep.
Because I can tell you from experience for a fact that quality real estate for people earning less than $200,000 a year is disappearing. Because if you can earn $200,000 a year, roughly you borrow about 1.2 million. Let's say you bought a house in Sydney, or townhouse in Sydney, or an apartment, and you've got 800 debt against that. You're left with a mere 400 or 450 or 500, if that, to go buy something with the far few. Like, there's nothing out there really. There's nothing that stands out. These are sort of properties that you buy because that's where you can afford. And I'm being very honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone starts from somewhere. But it is become more than ever, guys, do not let the market commentary, we as human beings should be smart enough to recognize patterns. They did the whole COVID-19 thing, locked us up. Now they're doing the whole interest rate thing, locking you up financially. Essentially, you got to think for yourself. You can sit here and go, Mark and Kesh, you guys are full of shit, and that's okay too. That is okay too. But guys, please mark my words. You are not doing yourself a service if you say and think, oh, I'll start from April. I'll start in August. You know, maybe this is not for us. Maybe I'll start in 6 months. Have you really put thought behind that? What are you going to do in 6 months from now that is going to change your situation drastically? Why haven't you sat down and really understood how much money do you need to save? What would you be able to buy? Can you even buy something? And what are going to be the implications of that decision?
And I think you need to be open and honest with yourself. I don't think people are fearful of what is on the other side of the fence. I actually think it's too hard basket for them.
Correct.
That's purely what it is. You know, oh, I've got to connect here. I've got to send across pay slips and this and this. And this. Okay, well, yeah, there's a bit of effort that goes towards it, but the end result is you do feel satisfied on a financial close, let's say, with a piece of real estate. I do every time I buy a piece, right? And it's, you know, yeah, all right. It's not as though you're popping bottles every time and you don't need to, but it's one of those
I
things.
do. I get very excited.
But it is one of those things where you go, okay, wow, okay, what's next? Okay, I'm waiting for my first mortgage repayment. Okay, rental's coming in. Okay, cool. It's nothing to be jumping over the moon, but it's the satisfaction of achievement. And if people don't, again, they might look at us and go, oh, shut up, you guys are a bunch of idiots, you know, whatever you're talking about. But it's true, right? Any deal, and it could be a $200,000, $100,000 property or $100 million.
Dude, I just showed you an example today. This was like a random purchase because I negotiated a mad deal. All I needed was $30,000 to buy this property, and I have just today in front of you, I was doing the paperwork. I've got an evaluation of almost $300,000 above what I bought it for in less than 3 years. And I have just pulled out $124,000 just today to go buy another property. This is a property that my entire investment in this property, cash I needed to put in, was $30,000. I've held it for 3 years. It is positive cash flow. Well, neutral. I wouldn't call it positive. Neutral cash flow after tax. And it's just paid me $124,000 tax free. Right now, for me to go, and you know what we were doing this afternoon, but
But real estate's a very volatile asset at the moment. And if that's what people want to say, let them say it.
I'm actually excited. For those of you who think it is volatile, please stay out of the market. Give us a little bit more opportunity, less competition. Stock levels are lower anyway, so we don't need to go and compete hard. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is awesome. I hope you enjoyed that episode. We just wanted to keep it nice and sweet. Sean couldn't join us tonight because he was in a very important meeting. And we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.
See you guys.